Welcome to Ignite Intimacy, a podcast exploring intimacy, romantic relationships, sexuality, and everything that relates to these hot topics. We're going in. Are you ready? This is your host, Laura Aisha. Let's do this. Hello, Ignite Intimacy community. This is your host, Laura Aisha, checking in from Brooklyn, New York. It is hot outside today, and it's beautiful summer that we're having so far. It is steamy hot, but also it's pretty hot in the Netherlands, where our guest for today, Miss Marga, hailing from the Netherlands, and I just had the pleasure of meeting Marga in New York City at a leadership weekend. We're both in a leadership training program. So what is happening over there across the pond, Marga?
Hey, hello. It's so great to speak to you.
It's great to speak.
So yeah, it is really good. Well, the Netherlands is warm too. For Netherlands standards are having a great summer too. And I don't think is it as hot and humid as New York, but we're doing our best.
That's great. Well, I know, because sometimes you can just have a pretty cool summer over there. So
yeah,
it's great you're having some warmth.
Yeah, our summers can be a bit wet. So, and then either before summer or after summer it's nice, but during summer it's not much interesting at all.
Yeah. Well, it's so great to have you today. So we met at this leadership training a couple of weeks ago here in New York City, and there's a lot of partner work that you do. So we had sat next to each other, and through the conversation, I don't even remember how it came up, but it was like, oh, okay, so I have this podcast, Ignite Intimacy, and you are a trained orgasmic meditation facilitator. And so we just started this conversation, and it was like, oh, we should record something for the podcast. So,
yes.
So share with our audience. So we're going to basically be talking around the topics of connection, pleasure, desire, nourishment, orgasmic meditation, and orgasm versus climax. So that's what we're going to be generally speaking about today. And just give our guests some insight into your journey into becoming an orgasmic meditation facilitator and coach.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I will. I can totally tell you how that happened. Basically, what happened, I was in another training, and there was a lady there who came up to me. We chatted like we did, pretty much. And we started to chat, and then she shared about this practice she was doing. And she said it's called orgasmic meditation. And at that time, I was like, what's that? So this is what she told me. And I remember really clearly. She said, you get to be stroked on your clitoris for 15 minutes, and then you're free to go. And I was like, what is this? Like, whoa, this is weird. And at the same time, I was like, this is interesting. Because for me, like, I've been in the field of personal development and training and coaching for quite some years before I even started this. And, the area of intimacy for me was still an area that wasn't working as well as I wanted to. I felt really stuck, to be honest. And I pretended everything was fine, but I was actually set out to find for myself, how do I work? And here this lady was sharing about this practice. I was like, oh, it actually sounds amazing. Like, so to give you an idea, it's a meditation. It's a partnered practice where for 15 minutes, the woman gets stroked on her clitoris for 15 minutes with no other goal than to feel. So
it's not about like climaxing or anything like that.
No, exactly. So it's awareness, and it's where you focus, both people who practice, because you do it with the two of you, and you sit in a certain position, both focus on the sensations in their body. And you're bringing your attention. And so, yet it's called orgasmic meditation. We're more looking for an orgasm state than climax. So like orgasm as we know it is not like coming or ejaculation. That's like what we say in orgasmic meditation is climax. So while climax may occur during an orgasmic meditation practice, like an OM, we call it, it is not like the goal. So it's more like feeling everything that presents itself and staying present in all the sensations that come up. And even finding the spot which has the most resonance in your body, like the most sensation.
That's amazing. And so we talked about this. We featured Robert Candell on the podcast four or five episodes ago, and he's a co-founder of One Taste.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yes. And so there is like, in first, people think like it's only for the woman, like, because she's being stroked on her clitoris, and the person who strokes, which is either a man or a woman, is actually getting a lot of benefits self too. Although it doesn't seem so obvious when you look at it. Yeah.
Well, and it's kind of like, I remember when we were talking the other day and you said that you couldn't believe that there was no exchange. Like, okay, so I am stroked on my clitoris for 15 minutes and then I don't have to do anything to the other person. Like,
yes, I was totally caught by that. Like that lady shared with me. And I was like, this sounds amazing. 15 minutes, I can kind of feel everything and I don't have to give anything back. For me, that was like, where's the catch? It can be true. Because in my world at that time, for me, when I would have sex intimate with somebody, I would always be stuck in my head. Like I would think so much, like, am I giving enough? Is the other one enjoying himself? Do I look good? Is there? I hope he knows how I work because I'm not exactly quite sure what I like. But I hope he does. So I was a lot in my head, and sex for me was a lot of giving and making sure the other felt all right, and not knowing much about my own body. So when she said, "Yeah, you're free to go after 15 minutes," it's like, wow, really? And is it really possible? But yes, it's part of the practice. It's actually part of the etiquette and the set of, I say that, agreements we have around the practice. So there is a really clear and safe space for the people who practice to explore themselves in it.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's just interesting just to veer a little bit is this whole thing around equality in the bedroom in a sense, right? So like, well, if I suck you off, you suck me off. If I do this, you do that. It's like this, it takes all of the fun and joy and pleasure out of just adventuring with someone when it's all about like making sure it's even, like an even exchange. And something that I have discovered for myself is that I don't orgasm every time. I don't climax every time that I am intimate with someone. And I'm okay with that. Like, that's not for me. The end goal isn't always about the climax. It's like, do I feel nourished through this experience? I had an experience recently where it was just like so just beautiful and pleasurable. And there was no forcing of anything. This was a man who was open, who was hearing me and listening to me and my requests. And I felt so safe with this person, which allows me to open up more. And it was like neither one of us climaxed, and we just had this beautiful, amazing connection. And we also didn't have sexual intercourse, either. Like, it was like we were just exploring each other, and it was so beautiful. And there's some power in that. So just bringing presence to, for all of us listening to that thing about like having to have it be equal or even, or, you got this, now I want that.
Yeah, I can relate to what you say. It happens to a lot of people, like women. Women are a lot in their heads doing that. Like, is everybody taken care of? Because that's how we, operate in life usually, is we look around, we take care for others. From a very young age, we learn to do that. And so we take that into the bedroom. And while, both sides have like their way, like men learn how to deliver, like they have to produce results and make sure everything is handled. So they have to handle their wife or their partner, whatever they're intimate with. So you end up with two people strategizing and thinking about what's the right thing to do or that, versus actually feeling what's the next thing that's coming up between the two of you. Like feeling, where is the sensation? Where is the desire going, actually? So it's a different way of connecting, and actually you need to slow down. Both need to slow down to be able to feel whatever, whatever is what gives the most. You could say for sometimes it's juiciest, or the more sensual or sexual sensation, or the most electric sensation. It's like an exploration, you could say, a discovery between the two.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so basically, you were introduced to this concept, and then what happened? Where did you go from there?
Yeah, so she told me about the practice, and at first it's like, okay, I have to find everything out. So I went on the internet and watched dozens of movies about it, like YouTube movies, and read the book of Nicole Didone. And there was one video, a lady shared how she was diagnosed in Orgasmic. And after watching that, I just cried because I recognized myself in her story. Like I felt I didn't know how to climax, that I was broken. That everybody seemed to have worse kind of.
Say that again. Say that again. Everybody seemed to have.
Oh, yeah. So if I looked around, everybody seemed to be, having a great sex life or knowing everything about it. And it wasn't a topic we would talk about saying, actually, I don't feel that great when I'm having sex, or I don't know what I want. How, it's a very vulnerable topic, which we don't talk about, at least not in the Netherlands. I don't know about the States.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very vulnerable subject.
Well, it is. I mean, it is. And it's common, especially with social media. It's like you could look on social media and feel like everybody's having this great life and these amazing relationships, and they're in love and like, oh my God, fawning all over each other. And then it's like, if you're not having that, you could feel like, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I not having that? You know?
Totally. Yeah, I was that. Yeah, I was like, there is something wrong with me. But after hearing those stories that I would actually get from orgasmic meditation was this reconnection with their body, this finding their own flavor of orgasm, you could say, like, what is it? And I was so intrigued. So I was like, okay, I have to try this. Even though I found it quite, challenging. I mean, I was single at that time. I didn't have an instant partner, you could say, to practice with a coach, a person who was trained to give home training.
Okay.
And we had a conversation. And I asked him all my questions. And then at the very end, I said, okay, great. I want to get trained. And then he said, great, you need to find a partner.
And the partner could just be anybody. They didn't have to know what orgasmic meditation was.
Yes, that's right. So, because he would get trained with me at the same time.
Ah, got it. Okay.
So we would both be trained, and so we could have an home. And that was quite an adventure in itself, because he gave me the assignment to write down names of people you feel from people in your life you would feel comfortable with, or you would like to do this practice with. It could be ex-partners, it could be friends, either male or female. That's actually not like that both can do. So I was set out, like I said to him, okay, I don't know what it will take me, but I will find an own partner. And I shared with you before, but I talked to this friend of mine. And I really know, I dialed his number. I was like, oh my God, I talked to this friend about a super weird practice. I don't even know if it really works, because I hope it does. And so he picked up. And after talking for 10 minutes, like avoiding the subject completely, he said, why do you call? Like, you see, he obviously noticed I wanted to say something. So I said, well, I'd heard about this orgasmic meditation, and I'm looking for a partner. And I was thinking of you, if you would be interested in it. And there was a silence for a couple of seconds. And he said, okay, continue. And that was actually my very first call to talk about this topic for me that was so vulnerable, but I had so much desire for to understand myself, like my own. And I didn't end up with him doing an home training, but I remember it was like the first step I took towards that desire and towards that nourishment and actually creating something for myself that was purely for myself.
That's amazing. And so what about your first experience? Talk to us a little bit about that, because that's an interesting story.
Yeah. So at that time, I would have home training with a trainer and person, like me and the other person. I found somebody. Right now, we do that. It's slightly different, but at a time, I ended up at my place, and I told people like, okay, I'm gonna do this training at my place. So I made sure people knew where I was. I was conscious about my safety. I was inviting two relatively unknown men. Like I talked to them and I trusted them, but really knowing them and doing this practice with that was very new for me. So I made sure I told some friends, some girlfriends, I'm doing this thing and I'll tell you afterwards how it went. And so we set up, the space, like we had 20 minutes of check-in. So like, how's everybody feeling? Any questions? And then creating the session. And eventually there was a moment we set up the nest. That's the place where the OM would take place in.
Mm-hmm.
And there was the moment where I would undress from my waist down. So the person who's being stroked, she undresses from her waist down, and the person who's stroked keeps fully clothed and only take his or her shoes off. And then there was the moment I was there and I had to take my panties off. And I remember the men were amazing. They said, you could say no right now and no hard feelings. Like, you need to feel safe. So they were really creating a safe space for me. And I was like, I didn't move heaven and earth to come to this now. So, I took off my panties and went into the nest. And we had the first OM. I remember lying there, with my legs butterflied open so that he could stroke my clitoris. And I was mostly thinking. I was thinking, do I like this guy who's stroking me? He's a bit bald. I don't like bald so much. Right? Like, oh my God, I think I want him to move a bit to the left, but I don't dare to say that the moment's gone. I cannot, or do I feel the right thing? Like I was thinking so much. And then there was this one, I think it was a 3-second moment where I felt between his thumb and his index finger. I felt this glowing sensation, this hot sensation flowing between his thumb and his index finger. And I was like, oh, what's that? And then it was gone. It closed that moment. So 15 minutes passed. Mm-hmm. The meditation is 15 minutes and closed the OM. And we cleared out the nest and we sat at the table to just kind of debrief, like, how was it? What happened? And I was sitting at the table and suddenly it felt as if this warm blanket fell over me. Like I was sitting and something hit my body. Like my body turned soft, felt warm, and I felt my pussy turning on. Like I started to feel aroused and like, but not in a way I ever experienced before. Like wow. It was wild. Like, whoa. So this is what they mean when you feel turned on. And it was a very new experience, and I was soft, and we finished the training session. So the two men went home. I was sitting on the couch, and I was silent in my head. I was sitting there, I think, for 20 minutes, not thinking much. And I was so present with my body. And for me, not thinking much was a lot. Wow. Because I was always in my head. Yeah. So after that, I was like, okay, I want to practice this more and see what it opens up. Because in the OM itself, I hadn't felt so much. Yeah. And I was really curious to, learn more, to go deeper and deeper.
Amazing. And so, with regards to, we're talking about connection and pleasure and desire and nourishment and yes. how you were seeking that in your life. And then you met this woman and then you entered into this practice and like how that, it seems to encompass all of those things.
Yes. How we women often work so hard and we're so tired. Like
Mm.
we just do a
Mm-hmm.
lot, give a lot, we work hard, and then to compensate, sometimes go to, eating or drinking, or we find other things to kind of compensate that tiredness or that empty feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And in
Mm-hmm.
OM, you fill up. You fill up on energy, but also on attention, on connection. And I strongly believe that if women give themselves pleasure, like, and not pleasure only in the sense of intimacy, but pleasure in, feeling good in your body, like even wearing good clothes, eating good food, enjoying the sun, giving things to ourselves that we think is pleasurable, that fills us up. And then we can come from this turned on place rather than a place of where we have to perform or to give.
Yeah.
And desire is a big ingredient in that. Like when I started, I wasn't sure what I wanted. Like I didn't know what my body wanted because I was so disconnected for such a long time. I had to learn, I had to reconnect. And desire, looking at my desires, look at what I want, helped me connect back. Like even the smallest things, like I would like a cup of tea now, like a small desire, and giving that to myself kind of started to reconnect myself back. And being stroked on your clitoris for 15 minutes, I mean, that in itself can be very pleasurable, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
so
relaxing and restoring, and like so many,
definitely.
I mean, there's so much in that. And generally I think we're a pleasure starved society. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how different it is over in Europe, but Americans, oh my goodness. Well, the United States, it's like we are not taught to put pleasure first or even third or fifth. It's like
No.
our pleasure is like the last on the list of things to get attended to. And what's really cool about now is that you've got people like Mama Gina who are working with
Right.
thousands and thousands of women around the globe to support women to put their pleasure first.
Yes. I love that. That's amazing. I love Mama Gina too. It's amazing with her work she does. And it is like when we come from this place of pleasure and this turned on place, I truly believe things start to flow for us.
Mm-hmm.
And for women, that when we started to be turned on, things start to flow and we start to attract things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it's for a lot of women here too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's like having more pleasure actually, it fuels our creativity and like our energy
Yeah.
to create the lives and relationships and experiences that we desire to have.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Then it takes courage, right? I mean, it took courage for me to actually take my first step to home, to start a
Mm.
practice. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't something I would just go around like, all right, I'll just find myself a partner and I'll home easily, right? It took something,
Oh
but
yeah,
it is. Yeah. So
absolutely.
that's desire. Actually, what I want to say is desire sounds amazing and it is amazing, and it can be very challenging because our desires might not be what our conditioning tells us or our upbringing or the things we learned from our friends or our society we grew up in.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So it's like redefining what pleasure means to us, redefining what
Yes.
desire means to us, and owning it, claiming it, and choosing it.
Yes.
So powerful. So now let's just talk a little bit about orgasm versus climax.
Yes. So we make a difference, right, between orgasm and climax. And how I explain is climax, you could see it's a buildup of energy. It's like you build up, build up, build up towards a certain point, like a peak, where you have a release of energy. And it could be an ejaculation or, orgasm as we know it, but we call it climax. And then you have a drop of energy.
Mm.
Well, we say an orgasm state is more like a flow you come into, like your body is turned on. So how you can see that is like the flushing of the cheeks, your heart starts to beat faster, you have like the genitals that get engorged, like the pussy gets wet, breathing can get more, it can quicker or deepen. And if you think about it as an analogy, it's like a concert. You know how when a concert is playing and how do you say that? The person in front, the composer, the
The
conductor.
conductor. Mm-hmm.
The conductor, right? The conductor is, the music goes up and it goes higher and quicker, and then it goes slower, and then it goes silent and goes more up, and so you have kind of the flow. And sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's hard, and that's
Mm-hmm.
bit like the orgasm stage. It has a flow, and then the very end you have the ba-ba. You could say that's the climax. So you have like the flow, the state where we are in is, if there's anything, that's where we practice to be in, like being in an orgasm state.
Mm, mm. I love that. Well, and it makes me think about how when I'm with certain people, it feels like a chore. like like there's pleasure,
Yeah,
like
sure.
a chore, like it's like,
Oh, sure.
yeah, it's like there's pleasure there. And then also I noticed that with certain people I've had this thought like, oh my God, like I would love to spend time with this person tonight, but I'm going to be exhausted the next
Right.
day, and that it feels like a chore. And then there are other people that spend time with where it's like it just feels so nourishing and amazing, and like I could be in it all night long and it wouldn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah. 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 That's very recognizable. Yes. And then, I think like Om, how Om could actually give you some clarity on that is like in Om, you learn to stay in every sensation. You learn how to stay present in every sensation, because
Mm.
as in any meditation, you sometimes find yourself in your head, like I did in my first Om,
Mm-hmm.
and I still do. I think about the person I'm with, or I think about my shopping, or about work, or about anything that is not happening with my body. And it's
Mm.
the practice is to bring yourself back, to catch yourself, like what takes you out.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it the high sensation? And whenever you are in conversation with people, like if you bring that to your life, that awareness is, with some people you just check out, and then it costs you energy because somewhere you're not wanting to be present, or there's something you don't want to deal with, and then we kind of halfly checked out, maybe because we didn't say the thing that we had to say, or we stepped over something, or we want to give an adjustment but we don't know how. And so during the evening there's a lot of these tiny things that eat away your energy, you could say, that cost you your energy.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, staying present into what happens could give you an access to seeing what's happening for you, and give you some access to creating something different if you want to.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, and so just in the Netherlands, so have you been able to create a community around orgasmic meditation in the
Yeah.
Netherlands?
Yeah, we have a small community here. I'm really proud of. We're still in the like we're just like we are a small group of people who are very passionate about this, and we're expanding. Yeah, there are like people coming, and we're growing, and it's really great to see people developing themselves in the practice. But we have a small
Amazing.
community, and if you would come to the Netherlands, you could definitely get connected to the community if you're already oming, or you're trained, or yeah, people can definitely connect to the community here.
And you don't have to be trained in order to connect with the community, or how does that work?
Well, in order to connect with the people who practice and come to the practices, so we have moments where we practice together. In order to do that, you have to be trained, because that's part of the safe container we create. Like everybody should know what they say yes to. So people who are not
Mm-hmm.
trained, we don't own with, because they haven't got the training and the background of relatedness, right? And what is to do, what's not to do. But for sure, events where we like come together as a community and we don't own, yeah, everybody's welcome, definitely.
Okay. And then where do people get trained? Do you train them or do they get training elsewhere?
Yeah, so I can privately train people. So I give own training. People can also get trained, the big cities like London, New York, San Francisco. There's some cities in Europe, in Germany, France, they hold courses too. So there are a lot of different places in which where you can get trained.
Okay, cool. And
And then you can either do a course where, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah. So you can either be privately trained or in a date course, where you get, in both occasions, you get like the basic philosophy of the practice. You learn all the steps how to ohm and everything you need to get your practice started.
Great. Okay, cool. And so how can people connect with you online? And then if you have some resources as far as, if they're not in the Netherlands, where else can they look to actually get trained? But how can people find you online, Marga?
So I have a website that is www.turnonnl.com, which there I announce my events. I have a Facebook page, which is Turn On the Netherlands as well, and a meetup, Turn On the Netherlands. Right. And you can send me a message or an email. My telephone number is there too. So if people reach out to me, I can definitely, we can definitely set up something, or I can connect you to anybody else that I'm, within Europe or even in the States. I'm connected to the coaches and the trainers, so I could definitely tell you where to go.
Great. Okay, awesome. So you do the orgasmic meditation training, and then what type of coaching are you supporting folks with?
It's part of the orgasm meditation coaching, like One Taste. I've been trained by One Taste to be a certified coach. So part of that, it's like we call it desire-based coaching. So I use that type of coaching where we go by like, where is the desire going? What is it that you want? What is your heart really connected to? And find out what that is, create a pathway towards it. And then on that pathway, you will find things that block you or stop you, whether it's old habits or beliefs. And then we clear those out. So you can create your desires how you want it. And some people choose only to do orgasmic meditation training, and then they start their practice, and in that they'll discover a lot. Some people combine it, so you can have both. Like, that's actually really powerful, because in your own practice, you will discover a lot about yourself. Like, you will notice where you will not say a thing. You will notice where you're holding on to something. And so from experience, having a coach who has been there before, like I have gone through that experience, we can guide you through like different phases of whatever is happening for you, and give you, reveal some blind spots of you or different angles that help you go deeper into your practice.
Amazing. Okay, so Ignite Intimacy Community, check out Marga online. It's www.turnonnl.com. Also Facebook, Turn On the Netherlands, and Meetup, Turn On the Netherlands. We'll have links in the show notes. Marga, thank you so much for joining us today.
It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much. And I love this conversation with you.
Absolutely. Me too. And I'm so grateful that we met here in New York City. I look forward to visiting you in the Netherlands. And Ignite Intimacy Community, thank you so much for joining us. Again, today we're talking about One Taste and orgasmic meditation. Definitely check out Marga online and say hello when you are traveling to the Netherlands. So lots and lots of love and blessings to each and every one of you. Stay blessed, and ciao for now. Thanks for tuning in to another conversation on the Ignite Intimacy podcast hotline. We love that you choose to spend your time with us. Check us out at igniteintimacy.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes and leave us a review and a rating. It helps more people know about us. We love to hear from you. You can email us with questions, comments, or suggestions to hello@igniteintimacy.com. And tell your friends. Music was arranged by Jason Pfaff and Mike Corey, and this podcast is produced by yours truly, Laura Aisha. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one. In the meantime, let your light shine bright and ignite your intimacy.